Welcome to our deep dive.
Mm.
We're going to tackle a question that I think a lot of people are thinking about these days. How are our Stone Age brains handling the Silicon Age?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're bombarded with information and notifications
Mhm.
and demands for our attention
Totally.
at a pace that would make our ancestors' heads spin.
It's really fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our brains evolved over millennia to survive in a
Yeah.
world of scarcity and danger.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to navigate this world of
Yeah.
constant digital stimulation and information overload.
You know, I was reading an article the other day that described the human brain as being like a computer
Okay.
with incredible processing power, but limited RAM.
Okay.
What do you think about that analogy?
Yeah.
Does it hold up?
I think it's a good starting point.
Okay.
I think it can help us understand
Yeah.
some of the core strengths and limitations
Mhm.
of how our brains work. If you imagine your brain as a computer,
Yeah.
you can think of its logical reasoning abilities as like a superpowered CPU.
So, like, our brain CPU
Mhm.
is what helped our ancestors make those split-second decisions
Exactly.
in life or death situations.
Exactly. Think about like a hunter-gatherer facing a rustling bush.
Sure.
Is it the wind or a predator?
Right.
They had to process information quickly
Right.
and react accordingly.
Yeah.
That need for like rapid decision-making in
Yeah.
uncertain situations
Right.
really honed our brain's ability to assess risks, weigh options,
Right.
and come to conclusions,
Okay.
even with limited information.
Yeah.
And those abilities are still serving us today
Right.
in all sorts of ways,
Right.
from navigating traffic to making like complex financial decisions.
And it makes so much sense.
Yeah,
We also have to process a lot of visual information, right?
totally.
Like, our ancestors needed to recognize patterns
Mhm.
to spot danger or find food.
Right.
How does that fit into the computer analogy?
That's where our brain's amazing graphics processing unit, or GPU, comes in.
Okay.
We are wired for pattern recognition.
Okay.
Think about how quickly you can recognize a face in a crowd,
Right.
or like discern subtle changes in someone's facial expression.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors relied on this ability
Yeah.
to read the environment,
Right.
distinguish friend from foe,
Yeah.
and interpret those visual cues.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about how much we take those abilities for granted.
Totally.
But I've also read that our brains are prone to making errors in pattern recognition,
Yeah.
especially when we're stressed or tired.
That's true.
Oh, okay.
Even the most advanced GPU
Right.
can have glitches.
Yeah.
In the case of our brains,
Mm-hmm.
these glitches often manifest as cognitive biases,
Okay.
like systematic errors in thinking
Yeah.
that can lead us to like misinterpret information
Right.
or make irrational decisions.
Yeah.
For example, have you ever experienced that feeling of seeing something move out of the corner of your eye in a dark room?
All the time.
Right.
It's like my brain is playing tricks on me.
And while that might seem like a flaw,
Okay.
it actually served a survival purpose for our ancestors.
Oh, okay.
It's better to mistake a shadow for a predator
Right.
and react cautiously
Yeah,
than to like ignore a potential threat.
that makes sense.
So in a way, our brains evolved to err on the side of caution.
Right.
And in some cases, these glitches can actually lead to
Yeah.
creative breakthroughs
Yeah.
or innovative thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So we've got this powerful CPU for logic
Yeah.
and a sophisticated GPU for visual processing.
Right.
What about memory?
Okay.
How does our brain's hard drive measure up to the demands of the digital age?
Well, the brain's capacity for storing information is vast.
Okay.
Think about everything you've learned in your lifetime.
Mm.
Languages, facts,
Yeah.
skills, experiences.
Right.
It's all stored somewhere in that like intricate network of neurons.
But I know I'm not alone in feeling like I forget things all the time. Sometimes it's like
Yeah.
I have all this information stored away, but I can't access it when I need it.
You're right.
Yeah.
Accessing information is where things get a little trickier.
Okay.
While the brain has massive storage capacity,
Right.
it's like read-write speeds are relatively slow
Mm-hmm.
compared to modern computers.
Right.
That's why we sometimes struggle to recall like specific details
Right.
or feel like we're constantly searching for the right word.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if that's why humans developed external memory aids like writing and eventually computers.
Right.
Almost like we needed to outsource some of that storage and retrieval function to keep up.
That's a really insightful observation.
Oh, okay.
The development of language and writing was like a game changer for human cognition.
Right.
It allowed us to store and share information in ways that were previously unimaginable.
Yeah.
And of course, the invention of computers has taken that to a whole new level.
Okay, so we've talked about the brain's processing power
Yeah.
and storage capacity, but what about our ability to handle multiple tasks at once?
Yeah.
How does our Stone Age RAM measure up in a world of constant multitasking?
That's where we run into one of the biggest bottlenecks.
Okay.
Our working memory, the part of our brain that holds information that we're actively using, is surprisingly limited.
Okay.
We can only juggle a few things at once
Right.
before our performance starts to suffer.
So it sounds like our brains are amazing at deep thinking
Yeah.
and pattern recognition,
Mhm.
but we're not really wired for juggling a million things at once. I think a
Right.
lot of us can relate to that feeling of mental overload these days.
Totally.
But I'm curious, how does this limited working memory
Yeah.
play out in the context of the digital age?
That's a crucial question because it really highlights
Great.
the clash between our Stone Age hardware
Mm-hmm.
and the Silicon Age software.
Right.
We're constantly bombarded with.
Yeah.
For most of human history,
Yeah.
we were primarily competing with other carbon-based life forms for resources and survival.
Okay.
But now we're also navigating a world driven by silicon-based logic,
Okay.
algorithms, data streams, artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
all vying for our attention and influencing our decisions.
It's almost like we've entered a new era of competition,
Right.
but this time
Yeah,
it's with something that thinks and operates in a completely different way than we do.
that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And one of the biggest challenges we face in this new landscape
Yeah.
is the sheer volume of information we're exposed to.
Okay.
Think about it. In the Stone Age,
Mm-hmm.
information was scarce and valuable.
Right.
You learned from direct experience or from stories passed down through generations.
Yeah. But today. Yeah.
We're drowning in data.
Right.
Every time you log on,
Mm-hmm.
you're bombarded with news headlines,
Yeah.
social media updates,
Ah.
emails, notifications.
Right.
It's relentless.
It really does feel like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. My inbox alone is enough to send me into a spiral of overwhelm.
Totally.
How are our Stone Age brains supposed to process all of that?
It's a real struggle, to be honest.
Yeah.
We're simply not wired to handle this constant influx of information.
Right.
And to make matters worse,
Yeah.
the information is often fragmented
Okay.
and tailored to our existing biases.
Right.
Think about how social media algorithms work.
Okay.
They track your online behavior
Mm-hmm.
and then feed you more content that aligns with your interests and beliefs,
Right.
creating what are known as filter bubbles.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
Could you explain what a filter bubble is?
Sure.
I've heard that term before,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
of course. A filter bubble is essentially an online environment
Okay.
that's curated by algorithms
Right.
to show you content that reinforces your existing worldview.
Okay.
So if you tend to click on articles about a certain political ideology
Mhm.
or share videos about a particular hobby,
Right.
the algorithm picks up on those patterns
Yeah.
and starts filtering your feed to show you more of the same.
Right.
And the problem is,
Mm.
over time,
Yeah.
this can create echo chambers
Mhm.
where you're only exposed to information that confirms your existing beliefs,
Right.
and you miss out on diverse perspectives and challenging viewpoints.
That makes a lot of sense, and I can see how that could lead to problems like
Yeah.
increased polarization and difficulty in discerning fact from fiction.
Exactly. It's one of the unintended consequences of this
Sure.
personalized information environment we've created.
Yeah.
And it's not just about filter bubbles.
Okay.
The way information's presented online also plays into our brain's natural tendencies.
Right.
Headlines are designed to be attention-grabbing,
Mm-hmm.
often using sensationalism or emotional triggers to get clicks.
Right.
And because our brains are wired to prioritize threats and novelty,
Right.
we're more likely to pay attention to negative or alarming news,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not statistically representative of reality.
So even if we're trying to be discerning consumers of information,
Right.
our brains are kind of working against us in a way.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
It's a constant tug of war
Yeah.
between our rational minds and our evolutionary wiring.
Right. Right.
And unfortunately,
Yeah.
the digital environment is often designed to exploit those innate biases and vulnerabilities for profit.
When you put it that way, it
Yeah.
sounds a little bit sinister. Like,
Yeah.
our attention is being hijacked for someone else's game.
It's a complex issue,
Right.
and I wouldn't necessarily say it's always malicious,
Okay.
but there's definitely a business model built around capturing and monetizing our attention.
Right.
The more time we spend scrolling, clicking, and consuming,
Yeah.
the more data companies collect,
Uh-huh.
and the more targeted advertising they can deliver.
So it's not just the sheer volume of information we have to contend with,
Right.
but also the way it's presented and the motives behind it.
Exactly.
That's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But I want to go back to something you said earlier about our
Yeah.
brains being wired to prioritize threats and novelty.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ties into another big challenge of the digital age,
Right.
instant gratification.
Absolutely. Our brains are hardwired
Right.
to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Right.
And in the digital age,
Yeah.
those pleasure centers are being constantly stimulated.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the rush of dopamine you get when you receive a notification on your phone,
Right.
or when you see a post you shared getting a bunch of likes and comments.
Yeah.
Those little bursts of pleasure
Mm-hmm.
keep us coming back for more,
Mm-hmm.
even if what we're consuming is ultimately meaningless or even harmful.
I think everyone can relate to that feeling of getting sucked into a social media scroll
Yeah.
or binge watching a show when you know you should be doing something else.
Totally.
It's like our brains are being hijacked by these carefully engineered feedback loops.
That's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like a constant tug of war
Right.
between our long-term goals
Yeah.
and our desire for instant gratification.
Right.
And in many cases,
Yes.
the instant gratification wins out
Mm-hmm.
because it's tapping into those primal reward pathways in our brains.
So in a way,
Yeah.
we're not just competing with silicon for our attention,
Right.
but also for our own willpower.
Exactly. And the stakes are high
Right.
because this constant craving for instant gratification
Mm-hmm.
can have serious consequences for our mental health, our relationships, and our ability to focus on long-term goals.
Right.
It's been linked to increased anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
and even addiction in some cases.
It sounds like we're up against some pretty formidable forces here.
Yeah.
But it's not just about distraction and information overload, right?
Right.
There's also the issue of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Becoming more sophisticated and capable.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're now entering an era where AI is not just automating tasks,
Right.
but starting to outperform humans
Yeah.
in areas like complex game playing, financial trading, and even medical diagnosis.
Right.
These are areas where we once thought human intuition and creativity were unbeatable.
That's both exciting and a little bit terrifying.
It is.
I mean, it's amazing to think about the potential of AI to solve complex problems and improve our lives.
Right.
But it also raises questions about what it means to be human
Yeah.
in a world where machines are becoming increasingly intelligent.
It's a profound question,
Yeah.
and one that we're only beginning to grapple with.
Right.
I think it's important to remember that AI is a tool,
Okay.
and like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
Ultimately, it's up to us as individuals and as a society to decide how we want to shape the future of AI
Yeah.
and ensure that it serves humanity, not the other way around.
It can feel a bit overwhelming to
Yeah.
think about all these challenges.
And you're-
Information overload, instant gratification,
Right.
AI competition. It's
Yeah.
like our poor Stone Age brains are being pulled in a million directions at once.
Yeah,
Is there any hope for us?
I think so.
Can we actually adapt and thrive in this digital landscape?
Yeah.
Or are we doomed to be ruled by algorithms and outsmarted by machines?
I'm an optimist at heart,
Okay.
and I truly believe we have the power to not only survive,
Okay.
but thrive in this digital age.
Mm-hmm.
Remember,
Yeah.
the human brain is remarkably adaptable.
Right.
We've overcome countless challenges throughout history,
Yeah.
and we have the capacity to evolve and find new ways of being in the world.
That's reassuring to hear.
So how do we do it?
Right.
How do we bridge the gap
Yeah.
between our Stone Age wiring
Mm.
and the demands of the Silicon Age?
Okay.
Give us some practical advice,
Yeah.
something we can actually implement in our daily lives.
It starts with recognizing that we have agency,
Okay.
both as individuals and as a collective.
Mm-hmm.
We can make choices that shape our relationship with technology,
Right.
and we can advocate for changes that promote a more humane and sustainable digital future.
I like that, taking ownership of our digital lives.
Right.
So what are some concrete steps we can take
Okay.
on a personal level?
Think of it as digital self-cultivation.
Okay.
It's about intentionally cultivating habits and practices that strengthen our cognitive resilience
Right.
and help us navigate the digital world with more awareness and intention.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important things you can do
Yeah.
is manage your cognitive load.
Okay.
We've talked about how the constant influx of information can overwhelm our working memory. So it's crucial to create intentional blank spaces in your day.
Intentional blank spaces.
Yes.
What does that look like in practice?
It could be as simple as setting aside some screen-free time each day,
Okay.
maybe an hour before bed
Right.
or during your lunch break, or maybe you designate one day a week
Okay.
as a complete digital detox.
Oh, wow.
No phone, no computer, no internet.
Right.
The key is to give your brain a chance to rest and recharge,
Yeah.
to unplug from the constant stimulation
Right.
and tap back into the rhythms of the natural world.
I have to admit,
Yeah.
the idea of a digital detox sounds both incredibly appealing and terrifyingly difficult,
Right.
but I can see how it would be beneficial.
Yeah.
What else can we do
Right.
to strengthen our cognitive immune systems,
Okay.
so to speak?
We've touched on this already,
Yeah.
but it bears repeating.
Okay.
Building up your critical thinking skills is essential.
Right.
Don't just passively consume information. Question everything you read online, especially headlines and social media posts.
Right.
Look for evidence-based sources. Consider different perspectives, and be wary of anything that seems too good to be true
Okay.
or designed to provoke an emotional reaction.
So it's about being more mindful and discerning
Like
about the
selective.
information we let into our minds.
Right.
What about the instant gratification problem?
Yeah.
Any tips on how to break free from that addictive cycle?
It's a tough one
Yeah.
because, as we've discussed,
Right.
those instant gratification feedback loops are designed to tap into our brain's reward system.
Yeah.
But the good news is that
Okay.
you can retrain your brain to delay gratification
Okay.
and find satisfaction in activities that provide long-term rewards.
Okay. How do we do that?
Right.
I think a lot of people struggle with this, myself included.
One strategy is to consciously cultivate activities that bring you a sense of deep satisfaction and fulfillment. Things that require effort and focus,
Right.
but offer lasting rewards.
Okay.
It could be learning a new skill, pursuing a creative hobby,
Right.
reading a challenging book,
Yeah.
or spending quality time with loved ones.
Right.
The key is to find activities that engage you on a deeper level than the fleeting dopamine hits of social media or video games.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about finding joy and meaning in activities that nourish our minds and spirits rather than just numbing ourselves with distractions.
Exactly.
What about the competition from AI?
Okay.
How do we stay relevant and valuable
Right.
in a world where machines are becoming increasingly capable?
I think the key is to focus on the things that make us uniquely human.
Okay.
Our creativity, our empathy, our ability to connect with one another on a deep emotional level.
Right.
These are the qualities that machines, no matter how sophisticated, will struggle to replicate.
Yeah.
So rather than trying to compete with AI on its own terms, we should focus on cultivating our human strengths
Right.
and finding ways to collaborate with AI to create a better future for everyone.
That's a much more empowering way to think about it.
I think so.
So it sounds like adapting to the digital age isn't just about
Right.
changing our individual habits.
Yeah.
It's also about advocating for systemic changes
Yes,
that promote a healthier digital landscape.
absolutely. We can all play a role in shaping the digital world we want to live in.
Okay.
It starts with being aware of the issues, having conversations like this one,
Right.
and supporting organizations that are working to create
Yeah.
more ethical and sustainable technology.
Yeah, okay.
We can push for policies that protect our privacy and promote digital well-being,
Right.
and we can support the development of AI that aligns with human values
Yeah.
and benefits society as a whole.
This has been such an insightful conversation.
It has.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
is there one key takeaway
Okay.
you'd like our listeners to remember?
The most important thing
Yeah.
is to remember that we're not powerless in the face of these challenges. Our brains may be Stone Age,
Right.
but we have the capacity to adapt, evolve,
Sure.
and shape the digital world in ways that serve our well-being
Right.
and create a more humane and sustainable future
Yeah.
for generations to come.
Beautifully said. And before we sign off,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a question to ponder.
Okay.
What's one small change you can make this week
Right.
to reclaim your attention, cultivate your digital well-being, and thrive in the silicon age?
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Take action.
Right.
And remember, you have the power to choose how you engage with technology.
Totally.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.